What is up, my pro design builder family? Hold on one second. Let me just make sure that I don't make the same mistake twice. So for the last couple weeks, I've kind of made a mistake and not had my mic in front of me. So I want to just make sure that I got it in front of me this week. But anyways, um, I'm Sam, also known as the Pro Design Builder. Like I said, I've been a design build general contractor for the last 8 years, and I started out as a house flipper. And this group is specifically for real estate investors who want to make the transition and want to make the big leap into new development, but you don't know where to start. This is the group for you, and this is a great place to start. So, today's training is about how to become professional, and it just brought me back to probably about like 6 or 7 years ago. I had decided where I wanted to go in this industry, right? And I wanted to put together a group of design centers, but it would operate very differently. We would have design and selection staff, and then we would also have architect on staff to really kind of flush out the details, and they could make all of their selections in house, right? And we could choose if we wanted to get involved in the construction or not. Construction is a catch 22 as far as the time and the logistics involved with running a construction company. So I remember I went to meet with a guy, and he represented a brand name, Sichis, which is a tile, which has very decorative tile, and they have all different styles, a lot of customization options and stuff like that. Because as a custom home builder and a design center, it was important to be able to have levels of customization for clients. So I just remember when I went to meet with him, and there's not a lot of distributors in Florida, and let alone the country, that brings the product in. So, I love stuff like that that provides a level of exclusivity, especially when you're doing custom work. So, but anyways, I remember after this meeting, he said to me, Sam, you're very ambitious. But the one thing that will separate you from everybody else and the guys that are doing it at the high level, they are professionals, right? And for some reason, for me, I pay attention to all nuggets from everybody that they're dropping on me. And I listened to him. He named a few companies that were really big and also doing great work. So it dawned on me, becoming a professional is part of the process. So I wanted to kind of just bring a deep dive into what does it look like to become a professional developer. So this training is going to be really good, and also eye-opening as to what does it look like to put together a professional team. So we're going to kind of break that down for you today. So the differences between an investor and a developer: investor buys with hopes of creating a level of profit, whereas developers are strategically creating their profits and their profit centers, right? So that's the biggest difference. I truly feel like God created us to be creators, because if he made us in his image, he's a creator, right? And that's something that's important for you to understand and know. And that's why developers get paid so much, especially with buildings or areas that don't exist. They need somebody that has a level of expertise in the field to go and dream and create. So that's why that's important. So I would say there's three types of developers, right? If you, as a flipper, and you understand all of the chains and the sequencing that needs to happen when it comes to putting together a flip project, you are technically a developer, right? Because there's so many different things that need to connect for you to execute on that sort of flip. If you are a flipper, I consider you a developer, right? Then there is also small developers. What do we consider a small developer? 1 to 10 units. They run very lean. They have one project manager or so, maybe some support staff, especially now with AI, they could get support staff a lot easier and systematize themselves. But they work with a number of professionals, and we'll kind of dive into that. So let's first understand what is the model for small development, right? So, like I said to you before, the sweet spot is between 1 to 10 units. They have a small team that performs the majority of the tasks associated with getting their projects off the ground. So let's talk about what the Pro Design Builder method looks like and why it's important, right? So this is I consider the core of knowing and understanding how to become a professional developer. And when you nail down these particular areas, then everything will become easier to you, right? So in the beginning, things are more overwhelming, right? But that's my job. My job is to push you through the understanding and through the uncomfortability to get to the other side, right? So that's why coaching is so important. But let's dive deep into the 8 different steps that you need to be a pro design builder, right? So first thing is vision and feasibility, right? It's going to be very important that you dial in your vision. So pick your lane that you want to operate in. If you want to do custom homes, do custom homes. If you want to do duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, do those. If you want to do townhouses, focus on that, and then that's your suite, that's your bread and butter. But don't go single family to a fourplex to a bunch of different things unless it called for it, unless you have the systems to support that level of activity. So try to master one area, right? So be very area specific. So also the first step is the vision and mission. So define what success looks like for you. If it's one spec home a year, or if it's 2 or 3, that's going to be important in nailing down why what success looks like for you. So at this point, I would say getting one off the ground, and then after you get one off the ground, you become more bankable. Right now, you can tell the bank, "Hey, listen, I've gotten this one project off the ground, and here's the data connected to this specific project." Right. So then there's site selection. Right. So choosing a profitable site, understanding migration patterns, understanding why certain areas warrants a better price per square foot, which is going to be absolutely important for you to know and understand, right? Also understanding the changes that happen in gentrification and then how that could affect your property value at the end of the day, and then also buying in areas that already have traction when it comes to new development, which is going to be very important on site selection. So then we also have design and entitlements. So working with your architect, your designer, your engineer, and also getting your entitlements for that specific project. Entitlements don't happen on every single project. What I tell people to do is buy a home, knock it down. It was already entitled. There is no entitlements. The expediting the process and making the process faster is in your benefit to then sometimes getting the entitlement. But we'll get into that on a different day. Then it's financing. So raising capital, leveraging capital partners, and how to position these partners in a capital stack. I've definitely done a training about capital stacks so you can get a better understanding on what that looks like and why that's so necessary in how you structure your business. All right, so then there's also construction management. How counting the sticks and bricks, knowing how things are done. All right, that's going to be one of my biggest strengths, is really telling you how to look at projects from the lens of the actual builder, right? And knowing the small, minute things that could affect the logistics of your project is going to be absolutely vital. Also, hiring a contractor that's going to be worth his salt, is worth paying a little bit more to get through a project quickly and also professionally, right? So then it gets into marketing and sales. So leasing, selling, leasing, uh, doing some different condo conversion strategies. It depends on how you plan to exit that's going to be important. So that's what the marketing looks like there. And then there's exit and reinvesting, and also tax planning. Very important for you to know and understand. You should be a moving machine. Your funds should not be sitting on the sideline, so you get tax breaks, right? So that's to your benefit, that you keep the money moving and getting reinvested into more and more projects. That's how you're gonna be able to build wealth, right? So that's the eight core methods to the Pro Design Builder. So let's continue on, right? So we want to know how to become a professional, right? So building your professional team will instantly make you a professional, right? So I can't stress that enough. Building your professional team will instantly make you a professional, right? So who's on your team and why are these pieces important, right? So we've brought a training to you that talked about soft costs. This is the area where the soft costs come into play, but these are your team members that are really important, right? So let's break it down, right? Your land use attorney, right? So you may not always use a land use attorney, depending if you are converting two parcels or more into different zoning types. Then you might need a land use attorney to structure that for you and get that done, right? Then there's your architect and engineer. So architects and engineers are typically paired together. So the architect will put together the plans, the engineer will stamp the plans. There's also special inspector engineers, but that's a different process altogether. That's for the actual construction process and getting through the inspections, right? So then there's selecting your GC or builder that's going to be on your team, right? So I told you how I got into flipping, and on the first deal, hired, fired, hired, fired, hired, fired. So in the first one, that kind of tells you a lot about me. I'm not willing to settle for any crap. I hold myself to a high standard, and I carry myself in a way that I could be happy with what the Lord would have done. And for that, because I operate like that, there's a level of expectation I'm not willing to settle for, right? Nor should you, because anybody will tell you that is in this industry, or even if you're a flipper and you've done some transactions, the contractor will make or break you or send you bankrupt. It's literally that serious, right? So having the right builder or having the right GC on your team that's going to do what they say when they say they're going to do it is the most important thing, right? And we go through a process and tell you how to screen for that, right? You have to screen those guys out, those bad apples. You got to just make them jump through hoops and screen them out, and make sure that you get your project off the ground in the speed in which you want it, right? So then we talk about the construction management process, right? There is a specific process for managing constructions that's going to allow it to move smoothly. You need to understand that, right? So having that process down, marketing and sales. Oh, okay, all right. And then there is having your realtor on the team, right? So far I've talked about several people: land use attorney, I talked about the architect, I talked about the GC, and I talked about the realtor. None of these people actually are employees, right? They're used on the transaction, and we're accounting for that in our fees in the transaction, right? So this is important for you to know. None of them work for you. As soon as you're done with the project, guess what? You don't have overhead expenses, but we're going to get to what that may look like for you as you continue to grow, right? So then having a private lender also doesn't work for you. Works on a fee basis, right? To give you the best fees, and also put you in the best position, financially, right? And then it comes to a project manager, right, that you can hire. So there's a couple of different ways you could choose to do this, right? Once you get serious and you get past doing the first one, this does suck up your time. So having a project manager to manage the actual project, to manage the GC and manage, it through the construction until they get completed, is going to allow you to buy your time back, which is going to be important for you, right? But before that, you will be that project manager, right? And understanding the steps involved in it will give you the necessary experience, in turn making you a better professional at your craft, right? So all those people I named do not work for you. The only person that's going to work for you is your project manager. But that's going to be an important piece in this puzzle and making sure that you have the right team put together, right? So pro tip, developers operate a very lean machine, right? Low on the overhead, but it very lean, very profitable, right? You get paid on your level of creativity. So that's why this is an amazing opportunity for you if you're ambitious, right? If you just enjoy videos, you just want to consume videos, you want to just know if this is going to be for you, maybe good, enjoy the video. But for people that are serious about taking the next step and they really want to push the button and get in the room and figure out the nitty gritty so they could make movement, that's what the Pro Design Builder program is truly all about. So let me know if you ever want to get on a call and see if it's a good fit for you or not, right? So now let's talk about project feasibility. What is the core behind the feasibility of this project, right? So let's kind of break that down, right? So the core is site, land costs, construction costs, soft costs, and then profit will equal the ARV, right? Which is the after repair value, is how it's used in most residential investing terms. But that's how you calculate where you should be priced at in the market, right? So you can do those easy calculations with understanding what things cost, and then that's going to tell you if this project is even feasible. Is it going to be bankable, right? And you need to know that. So also know what is your target when you're looking for a return on investment per transaction, right? We're looking at anywhere between 25 and 30%. Obviously, if it went down to 20, we'll settle for that. But if the transaction went smoothly and fast, we want to be able to turn the money, right? So that's kind of how that works, right? So then it's also you're financing your development, right? So having the right structure in place, right? Whether it's hard money, all right, or gap funding, having the right investors and joint ventures to put together some sort of capital stack for your project and structure it in a way that doesn't use your own money, but you reap the benefits of putting the deal together, right? Always talk about your projects or pitching your projects about the level of return, right? The level of speed and the level of return, right? So people that are affluent, that has sufficient capital to invest in your business as the developer, they like to hear things like yield. They like to hear things like return. They like to hear things about, timelines, right? And obviously, if you have the level of experience, the experience part is what's going to carry you through, right? And that's where I can help guide you past the point. But then from there, once you have your experience, then guess what? It's easy to reference those things, right? When people are looking at new potential investment vehicles, then they know, hey, listen, I can check out Sam. He could give me this type of return. I know it's going to be surefire safe, and it's going to be feasible, and let me invest with him. So my strategy going in to get the right investors is, because I was doing custom, because I was doing high-end luxury homes, it was a audition for me from the standpoint of getting to know these people. I'm working in their intimate space. They get to see how I operate. They get to see my process. And at the end, once I do a bang-up job, then I get to say, hey, listen, I got an opportunity. Are you interested in, looking at investment opportunities, right? And then once they've kind of seen how you operate and they've seen it all, you've built the trust, and then they're like, yeah, I could take a bet on you, Sam. So that's kind of what different processes look like for different people when you're talking about raising capital or talking about projects in the way of returns, right? So then there's managing the design and construction, right? So that starts at pre-construction, having pre-construction meetings, having the proper scope of work, for the developer on top of the plans, managing the systems, not getting into your emotions on how things may change and how markets may change and how also suppliers and distributors and stuff like that, may change, because those things do affect you, especially in this tariff type of pocket that we're in. It's going to be important to know exactly what that looks like for you and how to plan around it. So doing regular site walks, site visits with your GC, getting regular reports, getting regular check-ins with the key players that are involved in your project. So all of those things are going to be important. They're going to feed you information. They're going to help grow you, and then you're going to become more and more of a professional and an asset to your business, right? So that's important to know. So keeping a construction dashboard, using some professional software that's going to allow you to be in touch on what's going on in the project. Things like, the builder trend, right? It's a little bit expensive now, but at the same time too, if you have a project manager and he's managing a couple projects and he's putting the information on a regular basis into this portal, guess what? One, you'll know everything that's going on in the project. You'll know when things change. You'll know when things are updated. You'll know timelines. You'll know all of that stuff. And guess what as well? If you have outside investors, they may want to know or not know as much information. And guess what? When you're able to communicate high-level information to your investors, that builds trust. When they build trust, you can get an additional lender or two out of that. So that's important for you to know, right? Then there's also the last step is your exit strategy. Knowing how to exit the project, right? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to rent and hold it? Are you going to repackage it somehow? Are you going to deconstruct it and do condo conversions, right? It really all depends on what this exit strategy is, and it's important to have several strategies going into play, right? So the reason why that's so important is because these projects take long, right? And if this is all that you're doing, you need to have a level of cash flow that's going to help you survive, right? So whatever you're doing, you need to have this cash flow coming in, and the faster you're able to get in and out and have an exit strategy is what's going to allow you to be successful, right? So just want to say thank you for joining me today and getting a training on how to become a professional developer, and also how to just be a developer or a professional in general, right? There's a certain way, a level of thinking when it comes to systems, when it comes to business, and when it comes to execution that I truly feel like you need to have in any business. But if you ever want to work with us, reach out to us, the Pro Design Builder. Outside of that, have a great day.